Hello everyone, and welcome to game number 3 in our best of 5 series between Pbhead Roller and GSG. Pbhead Roller taking 2 decisive games in a row. Absolutely gross, the second one of the fastest stomps we have seen yet in this tournament. But we could have a different game this time once again. Lot of carbon available. Wouldn't be a bit surprised to not see a pair of scavengers this game if these players are comfortable with it. Not a whole lot of water going on. We do have ice available though, so that is another thing to consider. And Saberman with a pretty early found. Just gonna hop right into expansive, grab up that iron. Looking to go into steel once again. We'll see if he can avoid his mistakes of the past games and not just get his steel knocked out quickly this time. Pbhead once again pushing into that scientific colony. He seems to absolutely love that. Pushing into those 6 claims as fast as he can and just throwing down all the steel mills very, very early. Gameslayer and Roller have also established themselves at this point. This really has to happen right now? This is happening. Well, alright. No idea what's going to happen there. Everybody seems to be taking their favored locations this time. Gameslayer sitting in a bunch of aluminum and silicon as a robot. He loves to be in that spot. Saberman, as the expansive player, did split up his steel this time. That is worth noting. Still got 3 of the 5 frozen out by these power surges, but at least they're not completely dead. We will need to see them do something to strike back to take an advantage somewhere at some point. It's not like these are completely resistant to a power surge. So that is something that Gameslayer and Saberman are going to have to be careful about. Do we see a goon squad down yet? One has been purchased. It's being held by Gameslayer. It has not been utilized just yet. Would probably like to see that come down on some of these steel mills before too long, but it is good that they've got it established. Alright, everybody on up to HQ level 2 by now. Roller has managed to get there, establish a geotherm, also taken aluminum, and is going after a nice pleasure dome spot at HQ level 2 once again, and also just heading into a little bit of food. And that last claim will, of course, be taking this second geotherm location. That is going to be so dangerous if Pbhead and Roller can establish goon squads for it. Looks like Pbhead purchased our first goon squad for Roller. Roller might be looking to grab up that second one himself and just secure that location. Saberman Steel has finally come mostly online by now. Still a good thing, in my opinion, that it got split up. No need to risk having everything frozen again and again and again, as we saw in game number 2, and we'll just have to see if they can move forward from here. Gameslayer pushed himself into glass already, just relying on that. No power yet out of these 2, just going to let their opponents run away with the double geotherm they've already established. And I'm pretty scared once again about that. I mean, these 2 geotherms, each of them pulling in $267. That is no small amount of cash per second with these adjacency bonuses already goon squatted. The potential for superconductor is there. Now, Roller is only slightly ahead of Saberman when it comes to the upgrades at this point, but long term, with this power shortage especially, I think Saberman and Gameslayer are in an awful lot of trouble. Oh, and an adrenaline boost has come down in response to this shortage. That is absolutely devastating. Nothing that Gameslayer and Saberman can do to counter this at this point. They would have needed to take those steps several minutes ago by now in order to combat this. Roller pulling in a good $1,000 a second. By the way, this is why I don't think shortages should happen in the early game. I'm just throwing it out there, although this play would have been insanely strong even without that shortage going on. But it's just gotten even worse for Saberman and Gameslayer from here. Gameslayer doesn't look like he has established a whole lot of power, if any, just yet. He is focused on getting upgraded still up to that HQ level 3. Saberman in kind of the same position, no power yet online for him, just focused on steel, food, and a little bit of water coming in as well, which could work out late in the game, but as of right now, I don't know how well that's going to pan out for them. Superconductor already on the way for Roller. Gameslayer does have that patent office established as well, but it is sitting idle. Maybe just now trying to move into virtual reality and get that started. So we might have a bit more of a game on our hands this time, but I'm very nervous about this power production being unmatched by Saberman and Gameslayer still. 18,000, 20,000. Not a pretty situation, guys, as we wait for this auction to kind of pan out. Pbhead is going to end up taking that for 20,000. That was a very, very expensive auction to take. I don't know if that was even worth it. It may just be a sign of we're so far ahead, I don't have to care. No reason to open up a door that you could possibly come through. We are just going to shut you down at every corner available, rather than worrying too much about protecting ourselves from any high amount of debt. Solar panels finally coming down for Gameslayer, trying to get his little slice of that power market. Already fallen down to $75 though, and dropping rapidly with these boosted adjacent geotherms that now also have superconductor available. Ugh. Not a pleasant situation. The only nice thing for Gameslayer and Saberman is Roller is kind of taking this large chunk of cash now, and these geotherms should peter out eventually, unless he manages them very carefully. And you can see Roller has in fact chosen to simply turn off a geotherm rather than simply not sell it, so that's kind of an interesting approach here. Just trying to maintain power at its current level is what he's making an effort to do, but it won't necessarily be a huge runaway from here unless Roller can actually seriously abuse this hack array, which he hasn't gotten to do just yet. It did get mutinied away. Unfortunately taken right back. The mutiny was far too aggressive. No reason to go for a mutiny there, in my opinion. Just grab a power surge. Guarantee knocking it out for a solid 2 minutes. A far safer move than using a mutiny, which can easily backfire with just a simple counter mutiny. Not what you're looking for at all. Gameslayer did have a freeze hit on some of his more important buildings that were pulling in a fairly significant amount of cash, but his own hacker array was pretty well defended, and we can see both pleasure domes established, making decent cash. Not great cash this game. There's a robot, of course. Not everybody is fully upgraded just yet, but power is low enough that at least they're not causing too much of a problem.
Expansive colony
we are just seeing that very, very standard carbon hack once again coming out of Roller and Pbhead, it looks like. However, there's a carbon surplus on the way after that, which is interesting. I'm wondering if that's just mixing things up because Gameslayer and Saberman are also in carbon. At least it looks like they're trying to make some carbon. Where is that coming from? Right over here for Gameslayer is what we're looking at. So with that surplus coming in, that could make things a little bit awkward. And I don't really know what their plan is going to be long term from here, but they do have a significant amount of cash stored up already. Gameslayer and Saberman not anywhere close to that. Teleportation goes on over to Pbhead for 4,000, making this claim a significantly more viable option. There goes Roller selling all out, just bouncing right on into the chems, basically saying, all right, you took the carbon, now you've got to turn it into something if you want to keep playing with this hacker array, because I'm already at chems. You guys had better keep up. It's some nice moves out of Roller to just keep trying to stay ahead and ahead and ahead. Unfortunately for him, we do see that chemical surplus was already on the way out of Gameslayer, and Roller's just going to have a little bit more of a difficult time actually walking all over things this game. Needing to focus just a bit more on what he's about, it seems, this time. Mutiny is being played around with the Pleasure Dome. I don't know how I feel about that. The Pleasure Dome is a significant amount of money, but the hacker arrays are potentially where the game could actually end. We do see Roller has pushed on forward to HQ level 5, still sitting on a huge amount of cash after that, so they're still in a great spot to actually abuse this hacker array. If they can find something to do it with, just going to try that chem shortage again. Could work out just fine, as their opponents cannot effectively make chems, although I am a bit concerned. They've been continuing to make chems this entire time. These constant surpluses just make things more awkward. Roller's just going to shut this thing down rather than try and use it anymore for the time being. An interesting decision. Yeah, they can't find a market to sit in right now, and Gameslayer and Saberman putting up a far more effective fight this time. They have managed to push to HQ levels 4 and 5. Pbhead still stuck back on 3, Roller sitting on 5, but Roller still has almost 200,000 in hard cash, and on top of that, power has been allowed to creep back up again. So these geotherms are just pulling out a crazy amount of money for him if he can remember to auto-sell from them. I just want to point that out. That is something that is a mistake that Roller is making at the moment, and it's a fairly huge one. I mean, he's losing about probably $500 a second from that before too long. And I don't know if that's actually going to be worthwhile. Now, it could be intentional, but Gameslayer has that power online, so he's just the one pulling in that cash right now, potentially. Still not going to matter. All of it going to be too little too late. It looks like Roller has managed to accumulate enough cash to push into that purchase onto Saberman, cutting off Gameslayer's support. He is not going to auto-concede this time, but I don't see where he can pull it back from here. His power is frozen out, nighttime on the way anyway to cut off most of that. And the rest of his tiles, while potentially viable, aren't really pulling in a significant amount of money. Gameslayer has gone AI at this point, which is now going to fight for the auction because it just feels like causing more of a problem. That is going to, in fact, go ahead and be Game 3 and the series on over to Roller and Pbhead. Nice straightforward 3-0. Nothing complicated, nothing difficult about it for them. Just the same game plan almost every single time. Executed better and better and better each time, it seemed. A little bit of a hiccup during that third game. Gameslayer and Saberman fighting back pretty hard with that hacker array play, but still had nothing to do about the adjacent geotherm shorted power with adrenaline boosts. I mean, that's just a terrifying thought, isn't it? Ugh. So much money being made from that. If we check overview, entertainment revenue was never that high that game. Roller pulled in 46, Gameslayer 39 with that virtual reality. Just had trouble keeping hold of his pleasure dome for too long that game. Seemed to cause a bit of a problem. And Roller, of course, if we hop on over to resources, stop lagging out on me, Offworld. Come on, there we go. Auto selling 132,000 in power. Hacks working out pretty well for him. 30 on carbon here, 130 on chems there. Eventually found the markets he needed to actually go ahead and push on through to take that victory. So that was a good solid 3-0 on over to Pbhead and Roller. Very impressive performance. They will face Blues and Death Tacticus slash Zuzani slash Red slash changes his name every single week to annoy me in the finals. So that should be interesting. We'll try and get that scheduled as fast as we can, just to get through it, because I imagine people will be looking forward to that match. Just be on the lookout on the forums and on Twitter for exactly when that match will be going down. For now, guys,